My name is Diane Messner. I live in Ashland. In 2001, my husband and I were part of a bus trip to the Big Apple. We saw the Broadway shows Lion King and Ragtime. We walked down Wall Street and later stared up at the majestic Twin Towers. Little did we realize in 2 years they would be gone. I have these photos hanging on my refrigerator ever since to remind me of a tragic loss.
My name is Susie Foster and I live in Jeromesville. We were standing in line in Orlando, Florida, awaiting our turn to talk to a timeshare sales representative when the line of people started buzzing with the rumor an aircraft had struck the World Trade Center. We returned to our condo, flipped on the TV, and became riveted by all that was being reported. All of a sudden, the giant passenger plane came into view and ever so carefully, unbelievably, and purposefully flew into the second tower. No question it was intentional. From that point on, the nightmare of people jumping from the blazing floors, the buildings collapsing, the black dust clouds, and the imaginations in our heads as to the thousands of people that must have been burned, crushed, or choked to death were surreal. The magnitude of the event became even more intense when we learned the president was being protected not on the ground, but flying from point to point to evade any potential threat. It was not until the word came down that all aircraft had been grounded that we first thought about ourselves. How were we going to get home? Generally, we drove to our vacation spots, but this year we had flown. We called for a rental car. None were available. We called for a U-Haul truck. U-Hauls were assigned only if moving within the Orlando area. It was at this point we thought we may be staying in Florida for an indefinite amount of time. Fortunately, a few days later, when it was time, our flight was allowed to depart for good old Ohio. We have not left the great state of Ohio since 9/11 without our car. Flying is out of the question.
My name is Joe Shear, and I live in Ashland. On September 10th, 2001, I was working for a Cadillac dealership in downtown Denver, Colorado. A man and his wife came in to look at a used Volvo we had on the lot, and he told me it would be an anniversary gift for his wife if we made the deal. They would pick it up on Friday, their anniversary. She left, and he and I talked some more. He told me he was a standards captain for United Airlines and spent most of his time training pilots at the United Airlines Training Center in Denver. He also told me that he flew twice a month, usually overseas flights, but he was going to New York that evening for a flight the next day from Newark to San Francisco, so he could be home on Friday for his anniversary. He gave me his business card and wrote his cell number on the back. He told me to call him that evening with the final figures. I called him that evening, Monday, and we agreed, and he and his wife would pick the car up on Friday. The next day, Tuesday, September 11th, 2001, we were watching the news coverage from New York when his name and picture came up on the TV screen. His name was Jason Dahl. He was the captain of United Airlines Flight 93 that went down in Pennsylvania. Mrs. Dahl came back to the dealership in November and purchased a similar car.
My name is Holly Taylor, and I live in Ashland, Ohio. September 11th, 2001 started as an ordinary, beautiful, sunny day for Bob and me, and for thousands of other people in New York City. They went to work at the World Trade Center, and we, being retired, went for a walk. When we came home, I turned on the TV to the Today Show and heard the first news reports of a plane hitting one of the World Trade Center towers. Our TV didn't go off for hours. As I watched the events unfolding, I realized how people must have felt December 7th, 1941. Unbelievable shock and anger. Then later, pride in my countrymen when I heard of Flight 93 and how those brave people gave their lives fighting back, and hearing members of Congress gather together to sing America the Beautiful. How I wish they could work together now. Several weeks ago, I returned from a New York City trip with a group led by Steve McDonnell. We visited the Winter Garden, which overlooks the World Trade Center site, and also sustained damage that day. It has been fully repaired. The World Trade Center itself will soon be a place of renewal with memorial pools where the Twin Towers once stood. There are trees planted around the perimeter, and the Freedom Tower rises and is about 3/4 done. It will continue to rise out of the ashes of 2001 until it is finished. I felt pride again in the workers and sorrow for all those innocent people who went to work that day, not knowing their terrible fate. Their families still miss them. Let's not forget and hopefully make sure it never happens again.